All right, so this is a suggestion via Discord. The name of the video is Why New York Will Charge $23 a Day to Drive into Manhattan. Guys, this is not a phenomenon. Unfortunately, I mean, listen, it sounds crazy, but not really. Specifically knowing that there are multiple cities in the United States of America that are willing to pay its citizens not to drive. Right, but of course, New York being New York has to charge people. Why not listen, right? I think most of these people are looking to get like more outdoor space and things like that. So they're like, listen, if we can get rid of the highways, imagine how much free land we'll have now. I think that's the overall sentiment, guys. I think so, right? But all right, let's see what this video is talking about, guys. Let's check it out.
Walk the streets of Manhattan, and you may soon see hundreds of new cameras covering every lane headed downtown. They're charging a new toll on congestion.
We are going to be the very first state in the...
Oh, they're doing this to pay for it. Never mind. I'm almost positive with all the recent money loss in New York because of let's say transplants, guys. I'm guessing that's probably something that's being used to most likely fund
nation, the very first city in America to have a congestion pricing plan.
The new toll covers much of Lower Manhattan. Entering this zone in a car could cost up to $23 a day.
It's going to be an example for cities all over the country to rethink how they use their street space.
Okay.
But a plan of this scale will...
Imagine being taxed because you're driving a vehicle, and that tax is not really going to anything beneficial at all. At all. Just keep that in mind. It's just filling the pockets of the local government more. And I'm gonna be honest, New York does not need more money.
Affect millions of people every day. Not everyone is a fan.
Most people are only focused on the fact that they are going to have to pay $23 to get into Manhattan. And pocketbook issues always take priority over the environmental issues or anything else that's related to the problem.
Right.
The MTA will use its share of project revenues to secure $15 billion in financing for system maintenance and capital investment.
The public transit system, the millions of
capital investment
New Yorkers rely on every single day, has been disinvested in almost from day one. And many parts of the system have suffered basically a century of deferred maintenance.
Over the last 70 years, the federal government focusing almost exclusively on investing in our roads, infrastructure, interstate highway system. We're not going to undo 70 years of policy.
Can higher tolls for drivers fix traffic in Manhattan? And
yes,
will they?
It absolutely will. People will stop coming in. Oh, well, maybe, right? Because there's already something that kind of floats around New York, guys, where they like spray something onto like their license plates, front and rear, and let's just say the infrared camera does not function very well. Something like that, or they like bend their plate in awkward positions. What else do they do up there, bro? Just a lot of things that prevent the cameras from seeing the actual vehicles. Just like be fully aware. Like if there's like a 3 on their license plate, 100% that's going to be an 8 in a couple of moments after this happens. I'm telling you, it's going to be an 8, and that's what they do on their plates, guys. Right? But all right, let's get it.
Make New York even less affordable?
No, people are just going to find new ways to take advantage of it.
Manhattan's new toll zone covers all of the routes into the central business district. Some routes into the area already get tolled. The fees can be over $14 per crossing. Others are free until the program begins in the spring of 2024.
And so that discourages people from really driving out of their way for the cheapest route. And right now, tons of people do that.
The final price of the fee isn't set yet, but the city is working within a range.
The range that is being considered is between $9 and $23. If it's $23, it means there's lots of exemptions.
I mean, you got to put something into the system to get something back. Everything is increased in New York, but the pay. So people are struggling trying to figure out where this money's coming from.
If you're a resident of the CBD and you make under $60,000 a year, you'll get a subsidy. People with disabilities won't pay. There's an adjustment, taking a look at what really is happening.
You're going to see a whole lot of disabilities pop up, bro. I'm telling you. A whole lot of handicap plates, bro. All right, let's get
in the city today.
The MTA received thousands of requests for exemptions from the toll, including from artists, students, civil servants, NYPD, and trade unions.
Yeah, let's not go for trade unions. Like, I understand NYPD, obviously, right? Civil servants, nah, no thank you. Well, okay, I listen, I understand. Students, obviously. Artists, bro, stop playing. All right? No. Artists, trade unions are probably we're gonna have to pass on that, guys. Trade unions are just going to use that very specific thing to barter. That's how they're going to get more people into their trade unions, by saying, hey, listen, I got something for you if you join us. So no thank you, bro.
There's no guarantee these requests will be granted.
If you're a low-income driver and you're on the outer fringes of the outer boroughs, how do you get to the city if you're not going to drive anymore? You're going to put another perhaps 2 hours on that commute.
It's not popular to tax ourselves. And when there are many layers of decision making in order to tax ourselves, that's many layers of opportunity for someone to say, hey, no, let's not do this.
The money raised from this zone may bring billions of new dollars worth of investment into an aging MTA system.
It's a massive system that has been underinvested for decades.
I mean, yeah, because you're funneling nonsense projects. Like you're financing nonsense projects. Instead of taking care of the city, right? How about this? Make New York no longer smell like urine, right? Let's start with that. Let's work on better trash management, right? Let's do a couple of these things that can actually benefit the people of New York City, or any of the boroughs, actually, guys, right? So if you want to do that very specific thing, I appreciate it. Absolutely. But if you are going to finance nonsense programs and initiatives, guys, I don't think it's worth it, right? And obviously, you do have enough right now in New York City's budget, guys, right now, to take care of all of your infrastructure issues, but instead you waste your money on nonsense, right? On things that are happening outside of the city. That's what you're doing, bro. You're wasting your money. But hey, listen, people vote for these people, so let's go.
It's a very old system, in some cases over 100 years old. And so it really requires a lot of investment just to keep what we have operating.
80% of the cash raised from this toll goes toward the city's subways and buses.
Signals is actually one of the biggest investments we can make to ensure that we can run more trains more quickly.
10% goes to the Long Island Railroad, and the final 10% to the Metro North.
I think we've been very thoughtful about where those...
And all of this money basically comes up to about $13 billion. And the interesting thing about it, guys, really quickly, New York City's budget is $107 million. And it will take less than that. It will take much less than $13 million to actually take care of the majority of the infrastructure. So where's this money going, guys? Follow the money. I'm just gonna let you guys know. Maybe you should stop taxing the people in the way you're taxing these people. New York City, one of the most expensive places in the world to live, right? And you just want to tax people? They're having a hard enough time as it is. Everyone is having a hard time. $107 billion budget, New York City via the New York City Council. You're not taking care of the infrastructure at least 1 year. Come on, guys.
Investments will occur.
MTA is building 4 new Metro North stations in the Bronx that will allow people to access Metro North more easily.
It's going to save people tons of time. New York has the most riders and the slowest buses, and it's a huge shame.
Customers say they would be encouraged to ride more often if wait times improved, and if there were fewer people behaving erratically on trains, according to an MTA survey.
Our customers are saying,
yeah, right. Yeah. The subways are crazy, bro. Just gonna be honest, subways are absolutely wild. But all right, let's get it.
We want faster service. We want more reliable service. You know, we have signals that were installed literally in the 1950s that are still sort of, working, thank goodness, but that won't be forever.
No.
It requires investment.
Still,
but you have the money to invest already in your budget, your yearly budget. Where is this money going?
New toll doesn't cover all of the MTA's needs. Officials say the system needs about $54 billion for new capital assets.
Okay.
That includes track upgrades, repairs to elevated structures, and replacing power equipment.
All right, so basically, so we have an updated number now. So $54 billion. that's basically almost half, like 49.8% of their yearly budget. So if they need that one-time gigantic investment, I'm pretty sure, bro, split it up into like 3 years maybe, right? And I'm almost positive the entirety of New York City will get behind you and be like, listen, I understand we're going to have to slow down on some of the other like pet projects and things like that. And we will actually rebuild all of the infrastructure in Manhattan. Let's do that. I'm down. Just say, okay, basically $54 billion and their budget is $107 billion. Split it into 3 years, 3 payments in a sense.
Revenues from the toll will also be put towards cleaner transit.
And with the largest bus fleet in America, that's a big deal. We're also piloting hydrogen. So we have a couple of buses that will be powered by hydrogen that'll be on property in 2025.
The MTA is using the funds from congestion pricing to improve its bus network. Its hydrogen bus pilot will be small, with just 2 buses beginning by the end of 2024. The agency has big goals, though. It wants to make its entire bus fleet emissions-free by 2040.
That's going to help reduce the amount of pollution associated with buses themselves.
The region would not exist in the way it does without our transit system. It allows us to be a very efficient place when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions because so many people are on public transit.
Bumper-to-bumper traffic is an environmental issue, too.
We know that idling is one of the biggest causes of air pollution, which contribute to significant air qualities and smog. When cars are stopped, they are accumulating more of that rather than when they're moving along.
The toll will improve air quality in many parts of the region, according to traffic simulations. But areas like Fort Lee, New Jersey, and the Bronx could become busier with congestion pricing in place. The red spots on this map show where planners expect more traffic when the toll is live. Roads like the Cross Bronx Expressway may have to handle even more vehicles.
A lot of the trucks traveling up and down the East Coast end up using that highway. That community, it was torn apart by the creation of the Cross Bronx Expressway. There's a real historical inequity that's sort of built into that piece of transportation infrastructure.
Yeah, I was wondering if you will get into it. Why was the Cross Bronx Expressway created? Why were the majority of these expressways created? Huh? Answer that question. You're not going to. But she kind of did just kind of say it without really saying it. You got to read between the lines, right?
The structure that needs to be addressed.
The Cross Bronx Expressway is one of those Robert Moses roads that went right through a neighborhood.
One of the most important.
Why would they go through a neighborhood directly? You need to get to that neighborhood super fast if you ever needed to, right? But why? Who's there?
Federal self-liquidating projects. Part of this is a subsidy from the federal government. The rest of it must be amortized by the charge of tolls.
It is an area of New York City that has the highest levels of asthma.
While Robert Moses may have succeeded in building this road, the highway will never defeat the spirit of the Bronx.
So with all of that in mind, the government has committed $200 million or so to address potential traffic effects that might result from congestion pricing. A lot of these things should be done regardless of congestion pricing anyway, and probably should have been done years ago. But it's good to see that, proactive steps being taken now to try and increase investment in a neighborhood that really needs it.
The state of New Jersey is suing the federal government over this new toll zone. The biggest issue there is the money. None of it goes to New Jersey.
Why would it? Why would we give New Jersey anything? Stay over there. Across the bridge, bro.
To me, it's a very egregious, outrageous plan that hurts New Jersey dramatically. I think a lot of people need to drive. A lot of people like to drive. They like the reliability of having things within their control. The mass transit alternatives are good when they're working and when they're on time, but the reliability factor is much less than driving your own car.
But I think it's really important to look at some of the numbers. Over 98% of New Jersey workers closest to the city will not pay a charge. We should be thinking and fighting hard for the vast majority of New Jersey residents who take transit.
Many people in New York rely on rideshares and taxis, which dominate city streets. Officials call them for-hire vehicles, or FHVs.
App-based FHVs, which the city calls high-volume FHVs, currently provide over 7 million monthly trips that start and or pass through the Manhattan CBD. And this compares to about 2.5 million trips by yellow taxis.
I think rideshare was not properly regulated at the beginning. You know, it was a tremendous increase
Listen, everything new was basically the Wild West, so it's normal.
in the number of vehicles that we saw on city streets.
A shared car will take trips into Manhattan between 6 to 12 times a day. Customers of Uber, Lyft, and other rideshare apps have paid a small fee for rides in most of Manhattan since 2019.
What we've called for is an additional per trip fee for every for-hire trip that's taken.
Per trip
we already
fee?
have a sort of a precedent for that.
Yeah, guys, that's gonna break a lot of pockets, specifically like anyone who does like ride sharing, like as like for a living. That's gonna hurt their funds, bro.
That money goes directly back into the MTA system. And so we're calling for a little bit of an additional fee.
So basically, what they're saying here is, your job is to basically take people from one place to another, and this umbrella is basically telling you, "Hey, listen, I need you to give money against your best interest." That's basically the vibe, right? It's like, listen, I'm a car service, moving people, and I need to be taxed to pay money for my competition so my competition can thrive. It's a little, against your interest, but
the driver is only needed because the rider wants the ride, right? So it should be on the rider of the Uber or the Lyft rather than on the driver.
The planners expect to see fewer vehicle miles traveled in the center of the city.
Okay.
Vehicle miles traveled is an important metric for road engineers. It reflects how much driving occurs in the city as a whole.
Under all the tolling scenarios, they will all reduce the amount of vehicle miles traveled, which is the objective.
While the city itself may see less car traffic, regional planners expect vehicle miles traveled to increase in some parts of the wider region, with congestion pricing in place or not.
Yeah, because people are going to try to go around.
Are not anti-car. If you don't,
It's completely anti-car, bro. And a lot of the bigger cities are honestly anti-car. That's just a factual statement. They see dead real estate, which are these roads and highway systems, right? Completely dead. And they're just like, we can make more money if we start to develop these and use them for public spaces or be able to sell these off commercially. Yeah, bro, that's what you're doing. And then you're like, oh, listen, if we get rid of all of the roads and highways, then everyone is going to be forced to use the government-funded, let's say, MTA. And if everyone uses the MTA, then guess what happens? They get more money. So everything is a money grab. You're saying that you're not anti-car, but I think the overall, like in the long run here, the only purpose of this is kind of that, to be a monopoly in Manhattan. Again, follow the money, guys.
don't have any other choice than to drive, that's not a good outcome. People seem to focus on just like throughput and driving cars fast. And we've shown what's possible when you look a little differently at our streets and you see what's basically been hidden in plain sight or generations.
Right. Dead real estate. We're not making any money off of these roads.
A handful of cities around the world have congestion pricing zones like the one coming to New York.
It's very much like what you've seen in the kinds of areas in London, same thing in Stockholm, Singapore, Milan. They put plazas in all of the kind of underserved neighborhoods throughout Milan. They're pedestrianizing things. They're looking at a whole series of transit investments. You see that in Paris. You see that in Barcelona.
On the first day that London implemented their congestion pricing scheme, they also released dozens of new buses to increase frequency. I mean, you hardly wait 1 or 3 minutes for a train on any line in London. And that kind of frequency and reliability, that's what gets people to take transit.
And in London, they've had a reduction of nearly 20% in particulate matter pollution. There's a 15% reduction in particulate matter in Stockholm, which resulted in a 50% reduction in asthma.
Supporters hope that the mass transit improvements that come with congestion pricing will keep the city accessible to people who can't afford to live downtown.
For us, giving people
Okay.
a more reliable, faster commute is really a way to kind of address some of the inequities that have developed over time in our transportation system. So many of us who've been working on this a long time, we want this to continue. We want congestion pricing to free up street space.
You know, can we get to 6-minute rush hour service everywhere, 8-minute rush hour service? You know, it's a huge asset. You know, it's worth over $1 trillion, and so it requires constant investment.
I mean, listen, guys, I get it, right? I get it. But again, it just, they can say all of the fluffy things, right? Let's just fix inequality, right? The inequity of people that could not afford to get to certain places, now they can, and all these other things. It's just like, I get it, bro. I get it. But at the end of the day, you shut down all of the roads eventually. That's the plan, 100%. You shut down all the roads, and now you're the only supplier of transportation that people are now having to pay. It just seems like your budget is going to quadruple. That's what it seems like. But either way, I mean, do your thing. Listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day and enjoy your day thoroughly.